Ski and welcome into another edition of the PHNX D-Backs podcast right here in Chicago, right here on PHNX. My name is Derek Montia, occasionally known as your mayor of PHNX, and we are thrilled to be here after a big Diamondbacks win over the Chicago Cubs by a score of 5-2. Diamondbacks kick off the second half of the season with a very important win. They get themselves just a little bit more over 500, and more importantly, I have bragging rights over all these CHGO losers that are over here booing me and giving me a hard time. But of course, we thank you guys all for being here. Jesse Friedman, still in Wrigley Field. I was sitting there next to him, eating Cracker Jacks, taking in all of this baseball wonderment over there at that beautiful ballpark. But he'll be joining us here shortly. Might be joined by some guests, some fine surprises here. And of course, we got Faj on the ones and twos. Jacob Franklin, this was your first time at Wrigley Field. What are your thoughts?
I think there's only two words to describe it, Derek.
What's that?
Beautiful and historic.
And historic.
Yeah. That was three, but
was,
you know.
Yeah, it's a beautiful historic, yes. And you could also say they definitely were the friendly confines because as much as these people told me to go back to Glendale, they also welcomed me in to
Glendale.
Watch. Yeah, they did. They specified Glendale. They didn't even tell me to go back to Phoenix. I appreciate that. They did their research. But, of course, the Diamondbacks win by a score of 5-2, and this was, like I said, it's a big win. The Diamondbacks ended the first half on a pretty good note, even though they didn't win the final game of the first half. They just ended it above 500, and here they are getting their roll back on here in the second half. They are currently at 50-48. This is their 50th win of the season.
Don't let the snakes get hot.
Don't let the snakes get hot. Don't let us turn into a wagon. Today was a good all-around team win, I think, even though things got a little dicey there at the end, and we'll talk about the bullpen, but got to give credit where credit is due. Take a bow, Nelly. Ryne Nelson was tremendous for this team today, and I still don't understand how he is as effective as he is when he is throwing as many fastballs as he does. Today he threw 68% four-seam fastballs. He threw his slider 18% of the time, and then 14% other cutter, curveball, other things that he threw. But, of course, Ryne Nelson still just incredibly effective with that fastball. And, I mean, we've said it. We've said he is better when he has just a little bit of a mix. And today he had that slider working just enough for him to record a career high 9 strikeouts over 5 2/3 innings. It's not the depth that we would want to see. But, again, you can't really expect, you know, Ryne Nelson to go out there and be giving you 7 innings every single outing when he's throwing 68, 70, 75% four-seam fastball, right? It's just not enough of a mix. But it's impressive what he was able to do today. He maxed out at 97.9 miles per hour with his fastball. He averaged 95.2. And, again, it's just an incredible outing from the young guys that the Diamondbacks kind of need to take over here a bit and, you know, honestly do a little bit more until, you know, we get these other starters back to the starting rotation here from injury.
Hey, I mean, look, we've all probably criticized Ryne Nelson at some point or another over the last 2 years.
For sure.
He's had some moments where, man, he did not look like a big league pitcher.
And this is why, right? I mean,
Correct.
You're still not, like, looking at 70% fastballs and
the
thinking.
numbers don't really add up in this situation.
But the numbers don't lie, Jacob. They don't lie either.
However, Brent Strom has a knack, and I've just learned this over the last 2 years, for making these small, minute changes in a pitcher's delivery. For example, Brandon Pfaadt moving him to the other side of the rubber, adding a sinker into his mix so that he could get a little more run and make that fastball a little bit more deceptive. Ryne Nelson shortened his extension, and since he did that, he's allowed 6 runs in his last 25 innings.
And let me tell you, man, it's been impressive so far. He today, again, I think the thing is we've had some outings here with Ryne Nelson where he has, of course, the pitch mix has kind of been the key to him going a little bit farther. But Yeah, you're right. I mean, you know, when he can throw that slider 18% of the time and get it in there just enough to be a little deceptive, to be a little bit, you know, to keep batters a little bit kind of off tilt, then, you know, obviously it works out where today he had 9 strikeouts against the Cubs. Excuse me. It marked the 4th time in his career recording 7 or more strikeouts over 5 innings. His line today, 5 2/3 innings pitched, 3 hits, 1 earned run, 2 walks, 9 strikeouts. So, again, take a bow, Nelly. You did a great job. The offense also did a great job. I think Gabi Moreno hitting in the 2-hole works, Jacob. I think it works.
Is it?
I think it works.
Is he back?
Is Gabi back? Well, is Gabi back when he's hitting in the 2-hole? The answer is yes.
Yes. Yeah.
In 51 at-bats in the 2-hole, Gabriel Moreno is hitting .412 with 7 doubles, 1 home run, 10 RBI, and 4 walks after today's game. It's working. Gabi is back. Yo,
I
Gabi,
mean, he didn't even waste any time in the first inning today. Like,
No,
obviously
he
they didn't get anything out of it, but Cattell gets on with a leadoff walk, and Gabi's like, first pitch, smack it the other way. Like,
Yeah.
he's starting to drive the ball the opposite field with some authority, which is exactly what Gabi does when he's good.
It really is. And I think the thing about today with the Diamondbacks offense was they took what was given to them. They did not hit the ball very hard today, but they hit the ball a lot. I mean, the Diamondbacks today had 12 hits, scoring 5 runs. We're going to get into the runners in scoring position, which is absolutely bonkers, the opportunities that they had today. And even in that case, they didn't even come close to capitalizing on those opportunities as often as they should have. But before the game, Torey did comment on Moreno hitting in the 2-hole and how effective it's been. This is what Torey had to say.
I do. I really do. You know, he's a young hitter, and he sees that he's hitting second, and I think it inspires him. And he's, you know, I know he's probably not a 7-8 hitter where I put him at times, but sometimes the lineup shows up that way. But when you're hitting second, there's just a little more hop in your step, and Gabi certainly fits that category.
He absolutely does. And, again, he rewarded Torey today by going 3 for 5. Gabi was absolutely on fire. And, you know, I think the thing about Gabi is, like, he is one of those guys that we've talked about being here in the lineup and not contributing in a way that we expected him to based on his performance last year, right? There have been several guys, and those guys not performing early on was the reason why the Diamondbacks were bad in April and bad in May. But when you look at Lourdes turning it back on, you took it Gabi, you see even Geno now kind of coming to life here recently. By the way, today was the official 10-year service mark for Eugenio Suarez playing professional baseball, and that's very cool as well. I mean, these guys, by the way, have been grinding. They've been trying to kind of work themselves out of the slump. Unfortunately, Corbin Carroll, I mean, he had the kind of day that I was talking about prior to today's game. It's not something that you're very excited about. You're a little disappointed, but he still found a way to get on base, and he still found a way to contribute. He stole a base today. I mean, he got hit by a pitch.
We're going to erase his last at bat from our memory, but he was definitely productive.
Oh, do you mean the one where he just sat there with the bat on his shoulder for three straight
curveballs that all landed? I mean, that was a hard watch.
Yeah, I would very much like to erase that one.
But that didn't happen. He drove in a run with a sac fly to the warning track.
That's exactly.
And he stole a base.
Yeah. Well, of course, we have some offense today from Gurriel, Grichuk, Walker. These guys all contributed, and of course, you know, that's what got the job done. Gurriel was 2 for 5 with a run scored. Grichuk was 2 for 5 with an RBI. Christian Walker 1 for 3, 2 walks. Walker, 2 RBI. But I'm very excited to be joined by this man right here next to me. Actually, you know what? Before we get him in there, let's talk about Eugenio Suarez again. Before the game today, Torey talked about Suarez getting to that point in his career and what that means as far as longevity goes for a guy to make it 10 years in Major League Baseball.
Yeah, it's such a great accomplishment. Not a lot of players have done it. I think there's 1,000 players. There's 1,000 people in the world that have played 10 years of Major League Baseball. It's a little bit over that. It speaks volumes about his work ethic, his consistency, his ability to prepare, his ability to stay healthy. It's who he is. He's just a very tough player that wants to go out there and win, and it's added up into 10 wonderful years.
Brick wall.
Yeah, look at it. I'm joined by this guy now, of course, who welcomed me in and also booed me at the same time, which I appreciate. Cody from CHGO, buddy. What'd you think about the Cubs today?
I mean, it's just been a never-ending story, this offense. It's so inconsistent, man.
Yeah.
So inconsistent.
Frustrating on your end because they had some great opportunities there. We got very, very nervous with the bases loaded there late, and obviously I do want to say this. Me and Jacob couldn't believe the ovation that the team got from inside of the because we were walking out to come over here and set up inside of Wrigley when they scored their first run. Like, I don't know. I know that's silly because they're down 5-1, but like we actually are people that were like, man, that's some great baseball fans in there. They were that excited
First
about
thing out of my
let's
mouth
get it
was
going.
he had to have hit a homer.
Yeah.
We here in Chicago are built different, man. Like, that's not like to like slander the rest of the other 29 fan bases, but like I think the beauty of being a Cubs fan is that no matter what, we always find a way to like at least have some hope, some belief. Like that's what we used to be called the lovable losers, and like people still say that because they haven't made the playoffs and going on 6 years now. But like that's like I think that's why in some ways I became a Cubs fan a long time ago, is just because like there was always some sort of optimism. You always tried to find some sort of optimism, and in some ways it makes it fun to be a Cubs fan. But also at the same time, when things aren't going well, it's also the worst to be a Cubs fan because then everyone just blames everyone. And it's like we will support the team no matter what, but also we'll be the first to ship someone out of town too. It's never the other team's fault or whoever. It's always this player's fault, whatever. That's how I view it. It feels like, at least. But I mean, today's game, I don't know about you guys, but the umpires didn't help. But
we were laughing about how atrocious that call was, right? Like that.
Are you talking about the one against Morel?
Morel.
Yeah. I mean, it was a good 6 inches probably below his
and it's
knees.
it's like yes. I mean, obviously we don't feel it the same when it's against our team, but we have had that happen to our team, and we know what that's like. And it's also like, I don't know. We don't like. Yeah, we'll take it to get out of it, but we don't want that. Like, we want them to make good calls. We want this to be like, we want it to be a situation where he strikes him out with a good pitch. We don't, you don't necessarily want to. You'll take it, but I mean, we've talked about it lately. It's like the umpiring is just so bad in baseball, and I mean, it just begs for the ABS system or something. You know what I mean? Like,
I've been like. I'm one of those people that when there's a really bad call, I'll be the first to tweet out the screenshot from MLB Bad App of just how bad it was.
Yeah.
And like there were 2 or 3 times today I did that, and I did that from the bleachers. And I'm not usually the one to do that. That's how bad it was.
Yeah.
I'm not saying that like the umpires were the reason the Cubs lost. They got to get hits when they need to get hits. They left plenty of guys on base. Steele wasn't as good as he's been today, all this stuff. So, like, again, I'm not here to say that the Cubs lost because of the umpires, but they certainly didn't help them either.
No, they did not. They did not.
So.
There were some big moments there, especially against Diamondbacks bullpen. Kevin Ginkel came out. He did some good work after Ryne Nelson left, but Justin Martinez had his worst outing of the season, which is when the Cubs had their biggest opportunity to kind of chip away at that lead. Martinez couldn't find the strike zone, couldn't get a single out. He gave up 1 hit, 2 walks. He gave up an earned run. Luckily, our dog, Ryan Thompson, which, by the way, Jacob got to see today, me and Ryan Thompson nerd out.
They have a love of wrestling.
It's
very apparent. It's very apparent.
It's very deep. And, I mean, it's funny because I love to look, whether it's Jesse or Jacob or anybody with me, I love to see the bored-ass look on their face when I turn around after I've been talking to Ryan.
I have no idea what you're talking about. I just sit there with my camera down.
We were talking about storyline stuff and Liv and Rhea coming back. There was all some great stuff in there. But Ryan Thompson mopped things up there. He came in and got 1 inning of work, 1 hit, 1 strikeout. But Paul Sewald, our Lord and Savior, we've been struggling with our closer there.
Must be nice to have us closer.
Oh, I don't even, honestly, today he was pretty damn good, even though he did give up those 2 hits. But, man, I mean, it's weird because he's just one of those guys. He has 2 pitches. You know what's coming.
Yeah.
He'll be the first to tell you, you don't know what's coming, or you know what's coming, and you just still, somehow he's still effective. But, he's had his struggles. I mean, and again, it's something I think that a lot of teams have gone through. But he added a tremendous amount of stability to our team last year, and it's a big reason why we were able to make the playoffs, right? So it's like when you see him start falling apart in some of his outings, it's like, oh man, like nothing's really going good for us.
It's actually kind of nice to hear this because for Cubs, like the Cubs have like 18 or 19 blown saves this year.
Oh my God!
Like they quite literally, if they didn't have all these blown saves, they'd probably at least be 500. So it's nice to hear a team that actually had a closer coming into the year that was proven. Like to hear someone like have like some pessimism against the closer that you have. But yeah, he did show up today, and the Cubs had some chances that ninth inning. Didn't work out, of course. The old-fashioned fake rally. I'm used to it. But
I watched Horner hit a ball that was basically out of shoes.
Yeah,
and I get that's
wild.
him, but like,
that was wild.
That was like, oh man, that was the moment I was like, he's gonna give a home run on the next batter. This is where it crumbles
bad for us.
To me, the Cubs lost today because they couldn't get to Nelson, and I was looking at Nelson's numbers before the game, and like right-handed hitters hitting like 340 against him this year, and I was like, okay, set up Seiya Suzuki, Christopher Morel, Nico Horner, and like 2 hits through like 5 innings, like. To me, that's where they lost the game more than anything else.
Well, and he threw, like we were talking about it before you got here, he threw 68% four-seam fastballs. Like, I know his fastball is good, but like when he's had the most success is when he's able to mix other, off-speed stuff at least in there. And like he's always going to have around 50% fastball usage, but it's incredible. He got a career high today on 9 strikeouts with throwing that many fastballs.
In the Cubs, like you say this, and I'm like, oh, of course, that's why, because the Cubs have been one of the worst teams in baseball against the fastball this year.
There it is.
One of the worst teams. Like Ian Happ and Michael Busch have probably been their best fastball hitters, but like Dansby Swanson, we were talking about him in the bleachers because he was drafted by the Diamondbacks. Like he's historically been a really good fastball hitter. Terrible this year, not just against fastballs, but just in general, And other guys too. Like they just haven't hit the fastball as well as they should, based off the back of their baseball cards and based off historically what they have done against the fastball. This Cubs team this year, man, like it's the most head-scratching team in over 10 years for me.
Yeah.
So
you
guys came. The Cubs were playing well going to the All-Star break, and then the biggest fear for me was like, all right, you got a break. Now are we going to cool off again?
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
It was a little bit similar for the Diamondbacks. They beat some really good teams. They didn't have like a winning streak going on necessarily, but they won a few series in a row. They beat the Dodgers in a series. They beat the Padres. These were all like very big things for a team that really was struggling. What feels like just a few weeks ago. They really were. And they still are. Like, they still are struggling to find, some stability with their starting rotation and everything like that. But it's kind of weird because I did want to get your take on it. One of the popular things that we, kind of blown away by is the amount of the fan base that already want Torey Lovullo fired. Do you guys already have the people coming for Craig Counsell yet, or has that not been a thing? No,
I think it's more about the front office more than anything else for the Cubs. Because I think we all Cubs fans acknowledge that Craig Counsell is better. He's in a – Braggs walks in.
Braggs walks in.
And the first thing he does is flip him off. I think all Cubs fans acknowledge that –
He's going to hit me with his crutch. Call the police.
I think all Cubs fans acknowledge that this roster was flawed coming into the year. They acknowledge the roster was flawed coming into the year. I think – like I said when I first jumped on, like we all try to have some optimism and some hope, and maybe we are just a bunch of delusional idiots here on the north side, right? But at the same time, the team won 83 games last year. Like we thought that maybe this year this team would be taking a step, and maybe they still could. It's been a mix of just either they're really good or really bad.
Yeah.
And I think for Counsell, the biggest things I have complaints about Counsell at least is the fact that this team was one of the best defensive teams in baseball last year, and this year they haven't been. They also had lead baseball and outs on the bases, and it's like I feel like the only person I can really blame outside of the players is the manager on that. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I don't think he's worse than David Ross or as bad as David Ross because I like the way he makes a lineup. It's pretty consistent, and considering the roster that it is, he's putting the best one out there that I think he can put out there.
Yeah.
And I like the way he manages the bullpen. But at the end of the day, to me, this year's team, guys they relied on have underperformed. And they're hurting themselves more often than not every
Yeah.
single day.
That's what the Diamondbacks were doing early on, and that's the exact thing with the Diamondbacks. It was like, the guy, like even when we were missing players due to injury, it's understandable to talk about the starting rotation, but realistically, the main guys we were missing was Perdomo and Alec Thomas, and neither of those guys have an 800 OPS. It's not like those guys were the savior to the offense when we were really struggling offensively. The guys are here on the team that need to get it done, but they just weren't early on. And I mean, that's what's frustrating is when you kind of have the talent, but they're not performing well. You also have the one guy that we really breaks our hearts in Imanaga. When it comes to who we talked about a lot of players
you guys
during
really
the
wanted
offseason.
Shota?
Oh, we wanted Shota, and I guess the one thing is at least it makes us look smart because he's been having an excellent year. He's an incredible dude. We saw him out there at the All-Star game on the red carpet. He was just super gracious, super nice to all the fans, to all the people. He just seems like a guy that's really enjoying being here.
That's actually, it's nice to hear you guys feel like that, because I think when the Cubs signed Shota Imanaga, a lot of Cubs fans were kind of they were oh, okay, he's replacing Marcus Stroman, but no one really felt like the team was any better or worse.
Sure. And it's almost based on the other, big name Japanese players that were free agents, it felt like you kind of got the consolation prize in a way, right? We were looking at him as being a more affordable option than the other guys that were going to be available.
And I think a lot of Cubs fans wanted Yamamoto.
Right.
And once the rumors about him making $300 million on a contract of, however long, and the Cubs not being on that, and them being the big market team that they are, a lot of Cubs fans were discouraged. But this isn't to say that them signing Shota over Yamamoto was the bad move. Long-term wise, I still feel like Yamamoto will work out because he's young and he probably has better stuff than Shota, and Shota's 30 years old. However,
right now,
in the
Mike,
moment,
let's go, Mike.
Yeah, right. And that's what makes this year so disappointing and frustrating to me, because you're getting an incredible season from a guy in his first year coming over from Japan.
Yeah.
And the Cubs are 5 games under 500.
Yeah, your big off-season addition is working out.
So,
unlike some of the Diamondbacks haven't. Obviously, we talked about Jordan Montgomery in the stands a bit, and that was our guy that we felt like the Eduardo Rodriguez things people were good on, but they were all right, well, let's see how he does. It wasn't that big of a deal, but man, when we got Jordan Montgomery, it was World Series, here we come again, right?
When you guys signed him, I will attest that a lot, not only me, but a lot of Cubs fans were disappointed that the Cubs weren't more aggressive in adding to the rotation. Not that the rotation's been bad. That's been the one thing that's been good for the Cubs this year.
Sure.
But at the time, a lot of people wanted Montgomery, and maybe they dodged a bullet. I still think Montgomery could figure it out at some point over this course of his time. It's with the Diamondbacks, with these free agent pitchers or whoever it is, when they sign these big money deals, it's always that. It feels like it's always the first year where they struggle, but then after that they're better.
Yeah.
Last year, Jameson Taillon was terrible for the Cubs first 3.5 months. Second half, a lot better, but not enough to where you're convinced that he's back. This year, an ERA under 3.
Yeah.
And it's okay.
Yeah, he's
so
been really good.
A guy like Jordan Montgomery, he's just a guy who eats innings. He's been healthy for a large part of his career. I don't know what he is going to be with you guys, but I would still have a little bit of hope. But in the moment right now, I don't blame you. You paying him all this money and he hasn't performed for you.
Yeah,
guys,
for sure.
I get it.
And I mean it's also just been a rough year as far as the starting pitching goes. But
outside of Gallen,
and I mean even Gallen. Honestly, the Diamondbacks recently had this young guy Yelber Diaz that kind of blew through the minor leagues. He was literally in Double-A 2 months ago, and now here he is. And the 2 starts he's made for the Diamondbacks this year have been incredible. You know what I mean?
Sure.
Just amazing. And again, you're satisfied with that, and it makes you very happy that you have a young player up pitching like that. But we're going to get some guys back soon, including Jordan Montgomery, and I think there's going to be a lot of pressure on these guys to perform well, because if you have a minor leaguer that just came up and essentially went 2-0 and outside of a blown save by Paul Sewald, and a really, really nice-looking, array of pitches, people are going to want to see him back here fast if any of these guys don't work out. And, I think that's one thing right now. Diamondbacks fans, based on the success we had last year, feel very reactionary lately. Everything, they don't want to give somebody, more than 3 games before they're ready to call for their head at times.
Baseball fans in general.
It is, right? But, I mean, one thing I think about is, I can't believe the audience, the crowd you guys have. Not only have you guys at CHGO done amazing job with this Friday 120 club, but just in general, that stadium being packed on a Friday afternoon for a day game, like it's an amazing atmosphere that like is unlike anything else.
Dude, like for everyone listening, watching, whatever, like if you've never been to Wrigley Field, I would say this if I wasn't a Cubs fan, like there is no atmosphere like coming to beautiful historic Wrigley Field, as Pat Hughes puts it. Especially for a day game. A day game at Wrigley Field, if I were to tell someone like your best experience at Wrigley Field, it's to come to a day game, sit in the bleachers like you did with us today.
It was awesome.
And
it was awesome.
Whether they're good or bad, like it's always a fun vibe, and like that's what I think what puts the Cubs over everyone else in terms of like game day experience in baseball. And it's just like it's even better when the team is good. It's just so frustrating how things have been.
It's not.
It's been so frustrating since like the core that won the World Series has been gone, and we're trying to be patient. We're trying to grow some of these guys that we got, and you know, like Cubs fans aren't patient anymore, man. When you win the World Series in 2016, there's a standard that you set, and the Cubs haven't been meeting it since 2018. So that's 6 years, going on 6 years if they don't make the playoffs this year, man. So
it's so funny you bring that up because Torey Lovullo before the season, he tried to reshape the question he was getting from the media so often about expectations. And was trying to say we're not about expectations, we're about setting a standard, right? But it's like you can call it all you want, whatever you want. It doesn't mean that those expectations aren't there because now you made it as far as you did, and now people are going to expect more.
Right.
Why are you the way that you are?
I don't know, but
I hate everything that you choose to be.
I understand. I appreciate
but I
it.
do love your shit.
Right.
I do appreciate.
I'm going to put you in a sharpshooter if you're not careful here in a minute.
I'm going to fight this guy before the day is done.
I do appreciate Derek showing up here, the lead host of the Diamondbacks. Of the Diamondbacks podcast, one of the best Diamondbacks podcasts, probably the best Diamondbacks podcast.
Let's get it right. It's the best.
And he's wearing a Harry Carey shirt. I respect it, and I also love it.
Yeah, I mean, I will say that Harry Carey will always hold a special place in my heart. I don't know, like announcers in general, I have to credit very much with my love of baseball. Like I just think about how important like broadcasters are in getting you into especially a game like baseball, right? Like baseball can be very boring when you sit there and watch it on TV. If you're not a fan of the game and you're a kid watching it, you know, watching some other team on WGN because your state doesn't have a baseball team, but like the Cubs are important to me because they are the team that I used to watch. Them and the Braves, they're the teams that we had in Arizona before we had a baseball team, right? So, but like also I get jealous of this, like being here and seeing this atmosphere. Even that roar based on them scoring just one single run when down by 5, like it's amazing. I love it though, you know what I mean? And I really do appreciate you guys because being down there in the bleachers was probably like my best baseball moment of this weekend or this week. And I went to the All-Star game. Like it was so cool to be there, but it was definitely a vibe.
That's the thing about the bleachers too, is like you can be an opposing fan. And we might heckle you a little bit, but we're very welcoming. Yeah. If you're cool.
Braggs was going to fight some guy from the St. Louis Cardinals.
Yeah, there was a guy out there in the Cardinals jersey, but Braggs was heckling him a little bit. But you know, it's all in good fun.
It is. It's love, and I love the people of Chicago for that because people have been very cool when giving me a hard time or just in general, just being very welcoming. So,
did you guys go to Sluggers yesterday?
We did go to Sluggers.
Did you do the batting cages?
We did do the batting cages.
You don't even want to know.
You don't even want to know. I may or may not have like hurt my thumb a little bit.
Yeah, Derek got hit by a pitch.
And then what's wild is all I wanted to do was get back in the batting cage again and take my revenge out on the baseballs. So this has been an amazing.
Yeah, like that's the thing too. Like if I could explain, like if you're in Arizona or wherever and you're a Diamondbacks fan right now and you haven't been to Wrigley Field or a Cubs game, you come to Chicago, go to a day game, go to Sluggers before the game or go the night before. That way it's not too packed. Do the batting cages and Sluggers.
It's really awesome.
Then go to Murphy's bleachers the next day before the game.
Oh, man.
And pregame before you go to the game. And then my recommendation always is to sit in the bleachers like we do.
Yeah, that's the way to go. Well, thank you for the invite, my man. I appreciate you so much today. We had a blast out there with you guys. And, of course, I'm going to be out there again tomorrow. Are you going to be out there?
I am not going to be out there unless, like, my bosses at CHGO decide to give me a free ticket.
All right.
But, or if you guys find a free ticket, let me know.
Yeah, I'll hit you up.
But, no, I will not be out there. But, You guys want to meet up after the game?
All right.
Try some. You're looking for recommendations in Chicago or whatever. Let me know,
This is
man.
the guy to do that.
Yeah.
And we are here at Almost Home right now, which we also want to thank for being so hospitable to us. This is where you guys are doing your post-game meetup party, hanging out.
Absolutely.
There's a lot of green shirts in here. I need to still
The
get
Friday
one of those green
120
shirts.
Club is a special thing.
It's
man.
legit. Yeah. I mean, again, I'm jealous. We need to Diamondbacks fans. I'm doing you a disservice by not somehow figuring out a way to make us a club in some way.
Before I go, I just gotta say, when I went to Arizona last year, and in September, everyone, I'm sure everyone listening remembers that series because you guys swept the series.
Very important for us.
Yeah, and the first, that second game, that Saturday game, it went to extra innings. It was just chaos.
Oh yeah.
That
Yes,
game,
yes.
That team was
That
chaos
broke
last
you.
year.
That was the point that broke
me.
you.
That's the game that broke me. Everyone Cubs fan will talk about that game against Atlanta where Seiya Suzuki drops the ball. The game, that second game against Arizona in the middle part of September is the game that broke me. Not only because I was there and I had to witness it, but I just felt like the Cubs had every chance to win that game and they didn't do it. And it was just, it's just like my life. I watch the Cubs and they find a way to hurt me. That's just what it is,
You needed an extra special big order from Taco Bell that night.
Me and my friends I went with. My friend, shout out to my friend Dave who lives out in Gilbert, I believe.
Yeah.
Me and him and his wife, we went through Taco Bell that night. At least $50. At least.
That's hard to do at Taco Bell.
I know that, but that's what we need. All three of us. Him and his wife live out there in Arizona from Chicago, and so we're all Cubs fans. We went out there, and after that game, it's dude, gotta go to Taco Bell.
Let's go destroy our stomachs. Oh, my man, I appreciate you. Thank you so much for joining us.
I appreciate y'all. Thank y'all for coming out here. And, whether you're a Cubs fan, Diamondbacks fan, whatever, All City, it's where you get your coverage, man. There's no different.
That's right.
This is probably the best Diamondbacks podcast out there.
That's right. He said probably, but it is. It is. I'm confirming.
I mean, I don't know on any other one, but, I don't want to be.
That's actually it,
I was trying to humble you a little bit.
That's fine.
All right, man.
All right, thank you, man.
Y'all
Thank you for joining
one.
us. All right, well, you guys got to check out the CHGO Cubs podcast. I don't want to blow his head up anymore, but they are the best, and they are the source for Cubs news, so make sure to check them out. And, of course, we got Jesse still joining us here shortly, so make sure to keep it locked right here until Jesse gets here because I know he's really all of your favorites, and I'm fine with that. I've grown accustomed to that, but we thank you for being here in the PHNX Sports YouTube channel. If you haven't subscribed to the channel yet, make sure to do so now. Sign up for notifications. That way you don't miss whenever our wonderful shows go live. And, of course, drop us a like. We love when you do that. If you're listening on the audio podcasting side, I hope this background noise is not too loud for you because we love our listeners and we care about you as well. So make sure you're subscribed on your favorite audio podcasting app, and make sure you also leave us a review. Those 5-star reviews help us out a tremendous amount. Speaking of helping out a tremendous amount, Bet365 can help you out if you're betting on baseball with Bet365 with an baseball early payout offer. This is one of those games. Yes, the Diamondbacks won, but maybe it didn't go our way. Maybe it didn't. But if the Diamondbacks did go up 5 runs or more, right, you're a winner. And that's how the baseball early payout offer works with Bet365. You're a winner if your team goes up by 5 runs with an instant payout. Parlay and same-game parlay selections will be marked as winners. And, of course, right now, if you're a new customer, you can choose between 2 offers when you open a new account at Bet365. Use our code of PHNX365 to sign up. Deposit $10 and choose either between a bet-and-get offer where you will place your first bet of $5 or more and get $150 instantly in bonus bets, or a first bet safety net offer by placing a bet of up to $1,000. And if your qualifying bet loses, you'll receive a matched refund in bonus bets. Download the Bet365 app and use code PHNX365 when you sign up. Choose your offer and find out why it's never ordinary at Bet365. Must be 21 and over and physically located in Arizona, unlike me right now. If you or someone you know has a gambling problem, wants help, call 1-800-NEXT-STEP, text NEXT STEP to 53342, or visit problemgambling.az.gov. Well, of course, hiring people sometimes is not the easiest of tasks. As you can see, the CHGO people are stuck with Cody. You know what I mean? Sometimes that's the way things go. But if you are looking to get yourself a new candidate for a job you are hiring, check out Indeed.com. Indeed.com is driven by the search for better. If you need to hire, you need Indeed. Indeed is your matching and hiring platform with over 350 million global monthly visitors, according to Indeed data, and a matching engine that helps you find quality candidates fast. And that's really what it's about. Employers needing to find people to help them out, employees, quickly, and not leaving these jobs vacated for a long period of time. Indeed doesn't just help you hire faster, they also help you hire better. 93% of employers agree Indeed delivers the highest quality matches compared to other job sites, according to a recent Indeed survey. So join more than 3.5 million businesses worldwide that use Indeed to hire great talent fast. And listeners of this show will get a $75 sponsored job credit to get your jobs more visibility at Indeed.com/allcity. Just go to Indeed.com/allcity right now and support our show by by saying you heard about Indeed on the PHNX D-Back show. Indeed.com/allcity. Terms and conditions apply. You need to hire. You need Indeed. Well, let's take a look at the count from this game presented by Desert Financial Credit Union because, of course, this one's a little impressive. Diamondbacks outscore the Chicago Cubs by a count of 5-2. They out-hit the Cubs 12-8. But here's the key. The Diamondbacks were 5 for 19 with runners in scoring position to the Chicago Cubs 2 for 8. 5 for 19, Jacob. 5 for 19. They had a lot. Dear Lord, they had a lot of opportunities.
Had a lot of guys. I mean, it started in the first inning, first and third.
Yes.
Nobody out.
Yeah, you're right. Yeah, it started right away. And yet you look down here, I don't mean to jump ahead too far, but an 18.5% hard hit rate.
I don't produce a ton of your guys' shows other than on this trip, but that might be the lowest I've ever seen
I want to say that's the lowest I've ever seen that number,
that
too,
is
right?
I mean, that's baseball, though. You out-hit the other team, and you had an 18% hard hit percentage.
12 hits tonight, and they hit the ball hard 18.5% of the time. It wasn't a lot of hard contact. No home runs by either team. Both teams had 2 extra base hits. Both teams had 2 doubles, I believe. That's the count on the extra base hits. So this one really was, I guess, a complete win by the Diamondbacks on a day where they weren't hitting Justin Steele extremely hard. Jacob did look at me before the game today and said, like, he thought the Diamondbacks were going to have a good day against the lefty because the Diamondbacks tend to do well against lefties. Well, they did, but they didn't. Like, they weren't abusive to Justin Steele.
No, they did this. Yeah, they never made it hurt. They never made it hurt.
Yeah.
But, I mean, 5 runs is 5 runs against a guy that had given up 1 in his last 16.
No, you're
right?
absolutely right. You're absolutely right. And the bigger thing here, obviously, is the bullpen. We talked about how the bullpen wasn't perfect, especially Justin Martinez today. But, I mean, you got to credit the guys that did do the thing. You know, you had Kevin Ginkel coming in, finishing up that 6th inning for Ryne Nelson after he got pulled, then giving them 1 more inning of work, only allowing 1 hit with the 1 strikeout. Justin Martinez, even with him falling apart, you still have Ryan Thompson and Paul Sewald coming in, getting the job done, and this team was able to close the door on yet another fairly close victory. Like, even though it was 5-2, I feel like this game was much closer, especially considering how the Cubs had the bases loaded there late, and even in the 9th inning, the way that they had 2 runners on against Paul Sewald and essentially brought the tying run to the plate. But the Diamondbacks get the win, and it's important. These wins, these are big wins for this team. I mean, the Cubs right now are in a very similar position, even though their record isn't the same as the Diamondbacks, where they're kind of hovering right around, you know, this group of teams that are all fighting for one of these wild card spots. And this next stretch is very important for teams like the Diamondbacks and the Cubs to decide, at least to push the front offices one way or another on how they're going to react here at the trade deadline, whether they're going to be buyers or sellers. I feel like this is going to be one of those seasons where a lot of teams, there's a lot less sellers than we thought that we were going to see, right? I think that this is one of those seasons where, because at least in the National League, how many teams are there close to a wild card spot? Even if we don't see teams necessarily go out there and try to be aggressive at the trade deadline, we might not also see them part ways with too many players. But, of course, the one guy that we talked about earlier that really got the job done today is our king snake, and that is Gabi, our guy Gabriel Moreno, 3 for 5 today with an RBI, double, 2 runs scored. He just seems to be making magic happen in that 2-hole, and I feel like that's something that Torey Lovullo should definitely not change, Jacob.
No, he definitely shouldn't.
If it's working, do not fix it, right? If it's not broken, don't fix it.
If it's broken, don't fix it. But we are also joined by a guest.
Who are we joined by? Is it the one and only?
the one and only.
The one and only Thunderstick Jesse Friedman? Let's get him in here. I want to see his beautiful face. I haven't seen him for a whole hour and a half now. Jesse Friedman, my Thunderstick, your vice mayor. What a win for the Diamondbacks here today over the Cubs. We talked a little bit here about, the hard hit percentage in this game not being anything you're going to write home about, with the Diamondbacks only having 18.5% hard hit percentage, but they still felt like a fairly complete win from this team today.
It did, yeah. I mean, it was a game that they arguably should have won by a lot more than they did.
Yes, 5 for 19. 5 for 19 with runners in scoring position.
19 opportunities with runners in scoring position is kind of outrageous, frankly. To only come away with 5 runs is maybe a little bit underwhelming. I took some notes throughout the game. In the first inning, they had runners at the corners with nobody out. They didn't score. In the fourth inning, they had a runner at second with nobody out. Didn't score. Runner at second, nobody out. In the sixth, didn't score. And then they had first and second, nobody out in the seventh, and didn't score. And yet we're still talking about a 5-2 Diamondbacks win because they had a whole bunch of traffic on the bases throughout this game. I know you guys were talking about the D-backs getting to Justin Steele earlier. Second straight time they've gotten to Steele. He had 2 starts in September against the D-backs last year. The first one, I think it was 7 innings, 1 run. He was very, very good. And then the second start, the D-backs kind of got to him and put up 6 runs against him over 6 innings. And today, 5 runs against him in 4 2/3, 9 hits, a couple of walks. I think he hit a batter as well. That's 12 base runners against a guy that came in with a whip under 1. So D-backs offense certainly should get a lot of credit in this game, even though, again, they probably should have put the Cubs away a little bit earlier in this game.
Well, of course, our numbers are presented by Desert Financial Credit Union. We thank them so much for making sure they're accurate when Jesse isn't available to make sure the numbers are accurate. But for more than 84 years, Desert Financial has been Arizona's largest, most trusted local credit union, dedicated to creating exceptional experiences by giving back to the community and providing financial solutions that make your lives better. Of course, I miss my house very much, and then Desert Financial got me started on my home ownership journey. I can't wait to get back there because I am sick of sharing a bed with Jacob. But with that being said, it's not been all bad. He's a good big spoon. You know what I mean?
For somebody who's 6'7", I feel like I take up a very small
really
portion
do.
of a bed.
You're like a little mouse. It's kind of incredible. But of course, if you want to sleep in your own bed and not have to share one with Jacob, make sure to get you started on your home ownership journey at Desert Financial Credit Union. You can look to Desert Financial for checking and savings accounts, mortgages, loans, credit cards, investment options, and so much more. When you open a free checking account online right now, you can get $200 in bonuses. Get started by visiting desertfinancial.com/200. I've had some incredible beers here in Chicago and in Texas, but of course, no beer beats Four Peaks, and they are going to be widely available here sometime soon in the future. But in the meantime, if you are in Arizona, make sure to try Four Peaks wherever you get your beers at. Local grocery stores, tap lines across the valley, it doesn't matter. Check out Four Peaks. You can head over to their main location, have their chicken tendies. Then you can thank me and Jesse for hyping up the chicken tendies, and you can tell us, like, yes, the chicken tendies were as good as you guys have been hyping up for multiple years, and we'll say, we knew, no big deal. But also check out the wide variety of beers they have to offer. And, of course, check out the Bad Birdie Juicy Golden Ale, which is an amazing collaboration between Four Peaks and Bad Birdie. So visit fourpeaks.com/locator to find all your favorite beers and events. Check out at Four Peaks Brew or at Four Peaks Pub to keep up with the latest at Arizona's hometown brewery. Must be 21 or older to drink Four Peaks, and please drink responsibly. Jesse, one thing that was kind of interesting was we did have our guy Cody from CHGO on the show a little while ago, and he was talking about the Cubs being a very bad fastball team. And had I known that earlier today, I would have smashed that button on Ryne Nelson getting the win maybe, because we know Ryne Nelson is going to throw a lot of fastballs, and he did exactly that today.
Yeah, he absolutely did. I don't know if I'm allowed to do numbers don't lie this soon.
Oh, go ahead. Yeah, I lie, did lie. Jacob lies. We all lie. Numbers don't lie. Jacob, let's get to the numbers.
Yeah,
it's time for the numbers don't lie.
Yeah, so today's number is 68%, and going along with what you were saying, that is the Percentage of fastballs, percentages of pitches that were fastballs for Ryne Nelson in this game. It is a very, very high number. I believe that is the second highest fastball usage rate this season. And if you look at his three games this year with the highest fastball usage, it is his last 3 starts, which of course have all been very, very good. So we're seeing a trend where Ryne is relying more on that fastball than he has in the past. And he already relied on it quite a bit. I mean, 70% usage. You're getting in pretty crazy territory there. There
Right,
are not really any starting pitchers that are using one pitch that often.
So what is he doing so well with it that allows him to be so effective?
It's a little hard for me to say, honestly. Like, on one hand, I feel like using any pitch that much couldn't possibly work, but
Right.
it's working for Ryne Nelson, and I think a big part of it is his command of the pitch. He's able to throw it in different locations, on the inside part of the plate, the outside part of the plate. It's been especially effective up in the zone, but occasionally you'll see him try to dot, the bottom of the zone as well. So
we saw that
it
in this
can
game.
feel like it can feel like different pitches if you're kind of walking it around the zone. 70% usage to me still feels like more than you'd ideally want.
Yeah.
But it's continuing to work, and it's a testament to the fact that Ryne Nelson has a really, really good fastball. And there's a reason that when you're scouting pitchers, when you're looking for starters that will have staying power in the big leagues, an effective 4-seamer is a really, really good place to start, because as we said, you can walk it around the zone. It's effective, and it can be effective in a lot of different locations depending on the hitter. It's a good weapon to attack kind of the weaknesses of a hitter, whatever portion of the strike zone that might be. And he's got an electric one. It's got a ton of upward carry. Had really good life in this game. It averaged up over 95 miles an hour. So I can't really explain it, Derek, but it's working.
Well, and he also seems to kind of be switching up what he relies on as his secondary pitch. Today he threw 18% sliders, and I know in the past we've kind of seen him kind of rely on the cutter a little bit more as his secondary pitch. So, I mean, it almost feels like he just throws one other pitch just enough to keep batters off balance when he's throwing that fastball.
Yeah, you're right. He was really focusing on the cutter for quite a while. That seemed to be the main pitch off of the 4-seamer. In this game, it was the slider, which is a similar pitch, but just a little bit softer, 84, 85 miles an hour, as opposed to the upper 80s, low 90s that we see with the cutter. So, yeah, I mean, he's got a variety of weapons. It's not like he only throws 2 pitches. It's just that none of the others outside of the 4-seamer have really been consistently there for him.
Sure.
And tonight, or I guess this afternoon, what he was able to do is just throw those pitches just enough,
Right.
to keep hitters off balance, to keep them thinking, to get them in situations where they're not just able to guess fastball every time and be right all the time. And the command is obviously a huge part of this as well, staying ahead of hitters, making sure that he's hitting those spots, and he did it really well in this game.
Our other big topic, Jesse, was that Gabriel Moreno in the 2-hole seems to be working out very, very well for this team. He's currently hitting .412 with 7 doubles, 1 home run, 10 RBI, and 4 walks, and 51 at bats. What has gotten into Gabi hitting second in the lineup?
Have you guys played that video from pregame yet?
Yeah, pregame video already with Tori already talking about Moreno hitting there. This has been transformative. It's like Gabi is back, and I know you're not a big fan of when we declare that, because we declare it around here way too often on very little merit, but it does feel like Gabi is back.
Yeah, he really has come on strong for this team here over the last maybe month or so. I know he hit a slight skid kind of heading into the All-Star break, but by and large, he's looked a lot better here over these last few weeks. And he's very much justified, hitting in that number 2 spot in the lineup. I mean, looking at the numbers for Gabi in the number 2 spot, I tweeted them out earlier. I believe he is 20 for 47 at this point after today's game in the number 2 spot. That's a batting average of well over 400. That's an OPS of 1089, which is pretty decent. So, yeah, that'll play, Derek. An OPS of around 1100. Maybe the D-backs should.
It's all right.
Should keep him in that spot. Yeah, it seems to be working out okay.
We had a little bit of a struggle deciding on Ryne or Gabi for King Snake. Obviously, Ryne Nelson. I think that he it's kind of understated, right? Like Gilbert Diaz, for instance, he's kind of like the hot. He's the hotness, right? He's the new hotness, right? But Ryne Nelson, I don't really think he gets credit for what he's been doing. He set a career high today for 9 strikeouts, and I feel like we would have been I think it would have been fine to go either way here with Gabi or Ryne Nelson, but we do have more from Ryne Nelson on his start today and how he felt after going out there and performing the way he did against the Cubs.
I feel like we were getting ahead of guys, and just fastball command felt really good. You know, the part of the plan was definitely hard in, soft away, as Steve likes to say. But yeah, it's just like keeping them a little off balance. You know, sprinkling in some sliders here and there, keeping them honest, and then fastball at the top just felt like it was consistent, and I was able to get it there pretty repeatedly. And then, just Gabi working back there. He was great all day. Some really good plays behind me as well. So, and then offense giving me a little bit of a buffer there. I think it all just kind of came together.
How good are you feeling right now? It just seems like your past bunch of outings have been consistently good.
Yeah, I'm just trying to just take it one outing at a time, one day at a time. And I feel like in the past I had kind of gotten like really down on myself if I had a tough one, or like felt really good after a good one, and I'm trying to just be able to find a way to get back to even and go about the week just as any other week, you know, good or bad, just like I got 5 days to get my work in and then get back out there. And I feel like keeping that level-headed mindset, and even when I'm out there pitching, it's one pitch at a time, just trying to be present, and I think that mindset has really helped me a lot.
And yeah, I mean, Ryne Nelson, again, when the Diamondbacks kind of like, yes, things weren't great, you know, at times this season, but it really feels like lately when the Diamondbacks really needed Ryne Nelson, he's, you know, quietly been a consistent source for them as a starting pitcher.
What's wild to me, Derek, I mean, just hearing him talk there about trying to not be too high or too low, like you can very much understand why that would be a challenge for Ryne Nelson this year. I mean, looking through his game log, almost every start that he's made this season has either been extremely good or extremely bad. There's been very little in between.
There's a few times he gives up like 3 earned in like, you know, 5 innings, but he had to leave her. Like, yeah, it's all or nothing, it feels like.
Yeah, I mean, looking through his game log, so there was the obviously very good start today, 5 2/3, 1 run. Last start, 7 innings, 3 runs. Before that, 6 2/3, 1 run, 5 innings, 1 run. And then the start before that against the Twins was 3 2/3 and 6 runs, and they gave up 10 hits in that game. And then the start before that is 7 innings, 2 runs, where he gave up 3 hits all game. So you can go back all the way through his game log for the entire season. It's basically how his year has gone, and you can understand a young pitcher like him kind of going through those ups and downs, trying to stay even-keeled through all of that. It seems like he's gotten better at doing that.
Well, and he seems to somehow, like you would think as a pitcher progressed that they would start implementing their secondary stuff more, mixing in that secondary stuff more. He seems to be more and more confident as the season goes on with his fastball and relying on that pitch as his primary pitch.
Yeah, we touched on it earlier. I asked Ryne himself about it, and here's what he had to say about using his fastball so much.
I think it has a lot to do with just being ahead. I think that when I'm behind throwing a bunch of fastballs, that's when I run into trouble. And I think being the quality of the off speed, maybe it's not quite as much, but the quality of the off speed has been better. And I think that's just had to make them keep them honest almost. And I think obviously I like to throw my fastball, so I think that if I can find ways to use it and it's beneficial, that's what I would want to do.
It's his X pitch, right? On MLB The Show, like I wear out my X pitch too. Sometimes that's not even a pitcher's best pitch, and I just because where it like lands on my thumb, I throw it a lot, right? But if you can pinpoint your fastball, you can be very effective, right? Like, and that's the thing he's really been doing is locating well and throwing the ball where he wants to throw it. And when you're throwing it on average at 96 miles an hour, it's hard to hit. It's a hard ball to hit.
Yeah, Ryne just clearly has so much confidence in that pitch, and you can understand why. But it has been a narrative for Ryne for a while to use a variety of pitches, as we were kind of touching on earlier. And that's something that Torrey has revisited time and time again. When Ryne's not pitching well, a lot of times it's, he's got to throw more secondary stuff. He's got to do more to keep hitters off balance. And I asked Torrey about that as well. I mean, Ryan's throwing his fastball about 70% of the time over his last 3 starts combined, and he's gotten as good of results as he ever has. So here's what Torrey had to say about Ryne using his fastball to this degree.
It worked today. I know that was a very aggressive fastball. Like I said, with a lot of carry, and there was a lot of swing and miss with it. But I think his fastball can be used in 3 different spots, and it's 3 different pitches. So if he's landing it there, he's tough. And then off of that, he can throw the slider and the cutter. Certainly it's a heavy usage, fastball usage, but it's working. We're going to continue to get him to that next level of being an all type of pitcher. But it's going to take a little bit of time, but he's been fine.
11 whiffs today on that fastball, Jesse. So, yeah, he was getting some swing and miss on it. But I think obviously the other thing, too, here is that, he maxed out today at 98 miles an hour. His slider was sliding, and I think that was that pitch like he spoke about where he just needed something, just something to keep batters a little honest. And aside from that, fastball just worked really well for him today.
Yeah, and you can hear Torrey kind of be honest there and say it worked today, right?
It worked today.
And I think there is some hesitance. Yeah, I think there is maybe some hesitance of like, okay, I don't know if this is if 70% fastball is gonna work for the long haul. It is a work in progress. No one's here saying that Ryne Nelson is a finished product just because he's been really, really good over his last 5 to 10 starts. But it is still a step in the right direction. The command piece is huge. I mean, it's amazing how much just throwing strikes and getting ahead of guys can do for you. That's something that can get lost at times when we're, talking about pitch mix and all that stuff. So, really impressive stuff from Nelson overall today and over the last few starts. I mean, he has a 2.22 ERA, a 0.6 whip over his last 4 starts. If you go back to his last 10 games, which I think is 8 games started. There were a couple of opener situations in there as well. Nelson has an ERA right around 3 in that span. 3.29 is what I have in my notes with a whip of 1. That's really, really good over the course of 10 games, around 60 innings. Like, this is not just a couple of games that have been good for Ryne Nelson. This goes back a lot farther than that. So who knows, Derek? Like, who knows what this looks like moving forward? I mean, I'm a little hesitant to say that Nelson is, like a number 3 starter the rest of his career or something. But sometimes these things kind of go in phases where progress is not linear, and it seems like Nelson is really on to something right now.
I'm fairly certain you unplugged your microphone again, and we're listening to you through your AirPods, but
that sounds right.
Yeah, it sounds about right.
We came out of that video, and Jesse was like, I am him.
I am him. Who wasn't him today was Justin Martinez. The bullpen did a decent job today, but Martinez obviously had one of his worst outings of the entire year. So I don't really know what to say in regards to that. Obviously, it's just a bad day. I don't expect this to be, indicative of J-Mart, but again, there's been a lot of people clamoring for Justin Martinez to potentially get a bigger role in the bullpen, to get a higher leverage role, to get maybe even a closer role. And it's days like this that might show he's still maybe not quite there yet.
Yeah, I think that's fair to say. We've talked before about how J-Mart has been so good for the D-backs, but he hasn't been in a whole lot of high leverage situations. And Corey talked about wanting to see an opportunity today. This is a tough environment. 40,000 fans here at Wrigley Field. They're making a lot of noise. You've got a decent cushion for sure, but this game was not over by any means when J-Mart entered the game. And he struggled. I mean, he loaded the bases. There was nobody out. Ryan Thompson came in the game and was able to get out of a pretty tricky spot there and only allow 1 run. But yeah, for all of the people who have been hoping to see J-Mart in a closing role, in a high leverage 8th inning type role, this is maybe a reality check of like, it's really different pitching in those situations, especially in a ballpark like this with fans like this and all the noise that they're making. So it's not to say that J Mart hasn't had a good season or that he couldn't develop into that guy in time.
Correct.
He just hasn't looked great. He just hasn't looked great in those situations so far. Do I sound normal again?
Yeah, you're great.
Yeah,
You sound great. It sounded like we went through water there for a little bit, but you came back on the other side sounding clean and beautiful. And yes, J Mart might be the closer of the future, and that's an exciting prospect. It really is. It really is. But it's not now. And I mean, honestly, the Diamondbacks are actually in a good position because Paul Sewald's contract expires at the end of this year, right? It allows J Mart some time to develop into this guy that we want him to be, or maybe Kevin Ginkel, or maybe Ryan Thompson, who knows? But I mean, for the most part, Diamondbacks aren't committed to Sewald outside of this year, so let's let that happen when it happens. But for now, Paul Sewald got the job done today, and I thought he did a great job, even though he gave up those 2 hits. It's still impressive that man is able to go out there and get 2 strikeouts, throwing essentially just those 2 pitches. Going back to Ryne Nelson, I mean, he's much like Ryne Nelson, where you know exactly what he's going to throw you, and he still somehow figures out a way to beat you.
Yeah, it was a little sketchy for Paul Sewald.
Sketchy for sure is a good way to call it. Yep.
But at the same time, I mean, Paul Sewald just hasn't allowed very many base runners this season. I mean, there have been the few occasions where he has. He's had his blow-ups here over the last couple of weeks for sure, but on the whole, I think his whip entering this game was under 1, maybe well under 1. So yeah, guys are going to give up base runners from time to time. Not every save situation is going to be a 1, 2, 3 inning necessarily. Sewald early in the year really it felt like it was 1, 2, 3 almost every single time for him. There's going to be days like this where you do still convert the save, but you let a couple of base runners in the process. He was able to find his way out of it and continues to inspire a little bit more confidence coming out of that rough stretch where he blew 3 in a row.
Well, Jesse, I am vastly outnumbered by CHGO guys over here at Almost Home, so I need you to come over here and join me and bring a kendo stick because Braggs keeps trying to hit me with one of his crutches and maybe a steel chair, I don't know. But very excited, of course, to still be out here. We got 2 more games, 2 more post-game shows for us to bring you before we head back to Phoenix. So keep it locked right here. Jesse and I will be out at Wrigley Field, of course, with the People's producer, Jacob, joining us out there as well for all of this wonderful content. I did find a lot of I don't know, should we call it a lot of Diamondbacks fans? I found more Diamondbacks fans here in Chicago than I thought I was going to find, and that was awesome. So a special shout out to all of you, to my guy Doug, who bought me a beer today. I love you. We're best friends now. And, of course, I do want to shout out all of the wonderful fans in the bleachers here at Wrigley Field that not only booed me, but they also embraced me. It's been a wonderful time, and I can't wait to get back out there tomorrow. Make sure to follow us. Of course, if you don't already, my Twitter handle is cap_Kman with a K. Jesse is at Jesse N. Friedman. Of course, the People's producer for this trip is Jacob. He no longer wants to be called the People's producer after this trip, but just for this trip, just to piss Damon off a little bit more, we're calling him the People's producer on the 1s and 2s. He's also the 4th best Jacob Franklin. He is at Jacob_Franklin4. Our show is at PHNX_D-backs, but of course, all roads lead to at PHNX_sports on Twitter, Instagram, and Facebook. We thank you guys so much for stopping by. We will see you tomorrow with another post-game show. And until then, have a wonderful Friday evening. And remember, kids, baseball is fun, but it's so much more fun when you beat the Cubs.
We all silly like the mayor.